It started in 1968. When you were born.
Some of us.
Not me.
No, I don't think so.
It makes me laugh when I say it. But there wasn't such a thing as oncology then. We didn't even know the word oncology. We knew cancer, chemotherapy, and then oncology really developed in the 70s pretty much when it became a field. And I studied with David Karnofsky, a very famous name. He was the father of cancer medicine and Memorial. And he got me my job here at Montefiore, and I loved the place. I still love it, and lucky you're here. It is a very humanistic place. And as my career went on, they kept on sending me dying patients, and nobody was doing anything. So I did something, and I started a pain team with Edith Kepish, who was anesthesiologist, and I had a psychologist and a social worker and a clergy and a volunteer. And what does that sound like? It sounds like palliative care, hospice. So I was one of the pioneers. And we had the second certified hospice in America. It was part of the Albert Einstein complex, but it was at Abraham. And that lasted for about 10 years because we took on AIDS patients and they didn't know what to do with the funding. And it's a poor community, so we didn't raise enough money. But we taught the government how to survey and all that stuff. And I went on to become an artist. My husband had decided to go to Florida, and I went to Florida and became an artist and not a doctor, but everything I did was in medicine, so I've been a healer in both art and medicine. That's what I do. And I think you're going to have fun today. This is a process of having fun. You need fun when you're dealing in palliative care. And you always should have outreach in some other way than death and dying. You need to have life in your everyday experience. So this is part of life, and getting to know each other a little bit better. And so you've gotten my history, and now I want to go around the table and learn everybody else's. And then we'll team up and I'll demonstrate, and we have till 5, and I hope it'll work, that each of you will be able to do a monoprint. You know what a monoprint is? Mono stands for one, and print, obviously. So what you're doing in this today is you're going to make a monoprint, one of a kind. And that means that you're unique, each one of us.
My name is Louis. I'm one of the attendings. What can you say about me? Originally from Colombia, and I'm a young attending.
Are you having fun?
Yeah.
Do you like being an attending?
I do. I train here, fellowship, and train internal medicine in Manhattan, and fellowship at St. Luke's Mount Sinai, and fellowship here. And this is it's about to be my second year as an attending here.
Well, keep having fun.
Yes.
When you have fun, it's successful.
Yes, it is.
I'm Nidhi. I'm one of the attendings here, originally from Mumbai. Came in 2010 to Brooklyn to do my residency, and I did fellowship in geriatrics, palliative, made my way from Brooklyn to Westchester now. And in addition to being a physician, I'm also a mom, a wife, a daughter, and I play many roles in my life, like all of us do. And I'm very happy where I am in my life.
I see a lot of smiles on people's faces, so something's good going on here. I'm happy to see that.
I'm Randy Kaplan. I'm a social worker. I'm a daughter. I'm a mother. My daughter just got married on Friday. So mother-in-law.
It's about life.
It's about life. And I'm the director of the Caregiver Support Center, and I love working with every single person in this room. And I'm so glad that you're here because it's all about compassion, and Wilma knows how to teach us that. So I'm very fortunate.
Well, I think these people, as I see, because they're smiling, have it. So
They do.
it's
They do.
important.
I'm Kat. I'm the Palliative Care Social Work Fellow. I'm originally from Chicago, and I moved to New York in 2001 to be a dancer, and I was, and then I fell in love with hospice, and now I'm here. I think that's it.
I expect great futures for everybody here, so go on.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn Cardenas. I'm one of the attendants here. I studied in Peru. I'm originally from Lima. Came here, did my internal medicine residency in Philadelphia, which was a very nice transition. I really appreciate that I went to Philadelphia, not to New York first.
Where were you in Philadelphia?
Albert Einstein, in North Philly. It was fun.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah.
I'm from Philadelphia. You can hear the accent.
Yes. I love the city. It's like kind of a city, but it's small, and you can do too many things, and it just like it doesn't feel that big.
Patriotic too.
I know, and the history. It was very good transition. And then moved to New York. I live here in the Bronx, working here since 2013. I started as a fellow, now I'm an attending. I marry, I have a cat. And a mother of dragon. Mother of the cat.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, that's me.
I'm Carolyn. I'm the social worker over at Weiler. I'm originally from Massachusetts, and I've been here for, I guess, 6 years. I worked in hospice before, and I am not a new social worker. Vanessa's a new attending. I've been around the block for young. Yes,
So
definitely.
you learn from each other.
We do learn from each other. And I have lots of other things I like to do beyond Montefiore. There's life beyond
Basketball.
Montefiore. Baseball.
Sorry.
Bird watching is my new thing,
Oh.
and it's migration season, so that's where I am when my days off. And watching baseball and hanging out with my family. Got a husband. We like to travel, so. Yeah.
And I've been at Montefiore for 8 years now.
I think it's interesting they put wound healing in palliative care.
It's
It is definitely healing.
Yeah.
And there's major healing of wounds with palliative care.
Right. It is interesting, and I don't have I didn't have much experience with palliative care before I worked here, but I do palliative care work with animals, just personally on the side, so I can relate that way.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. So you assist veterinarians sometimes?
No, my husband and I will adopt the terminally ill or senior animals that need a home. So we have 3 right now.
Isn't that
Keep our hands full, yeah.
They
So
taught you so much about palliative care.
so much. A lot of the conversations I hear here, I'm actually having outside, about the animals, and it really is very difficult. It's very similar, the emotions that go along with it. So helps me understand the human side of it more.
And we're animals ourselves. We forget that.
I'm Phil Chang. I'm one of the fellows. I'm from Michigan. I trained actually in rehab. That's why I came to New York. Now I'm doing a fellowship in this, and then I'm going to be going back to Michigan and back in Korea.
I'm Linda Mitchell. I am one of the palliative care fellows. This is my second.
Yeah.
This is my second year at Montefiore. I originally trained in Texas for family medicine, and then I came here for geriatrics, and now I'm here for palliative care. I'm going to stay on, as far as I know.
If all goes well.
And then I guess in terms of me as a person, I love to go to national parks and just see the majestic beauty of what these 50 states have to offer. And there's a lot of spiritual healing that you get from just disconnecting and going out into nature. Those are like what brings me a lot of joy.
So I'm hearing a lot from this group. The animals and the environment. We honor waking up and seeing that sunshine. When my husband died, I put signs all around my house saying "Carpe Diem." That's what you're doing.
My name is Felix. I'm one of the palliative care fellows. I like the cat, and Reyes like the baseball players. I was born in Dominican Republic, and I came to train to the United States back in 2013. I started in surgery, switched to medicine 2 years later, did that in Brooklyn, then came to Montefiore, and I'm staying a fellow forever here at Montefiore. And I'm following palliative care with pulmonary critical care. And I don't know, things bring me joy. I don't know, like I don't have anything particularly. Like I like reading, traveling.
I have to add,
Spain is
Felix is an amazing dancer. I have videos.
Yeah, we share.
I did.
Oh, okay.
I sent it to you.
Oh, he's a good karaoke.
Oh,
He's
he's
a
a
good
singer,
singer.
dancer.
We do it all.
He's an artist.
The male Beyonce.
All right, I'm going to ask him the two fellows, because when I look at this room, there are two fellows and the rest are female.
There's four.
Plus Captain. 3 doctor fellows and a social. 2 females and 2 males.
Well, I'm talking about the gender.
Fellows meaning males.
She means the gender.
I know. Isn't it interesting how you said fellow and fella?
I heard fella.
Yes,
Fellow.
because the fellow came from the gender of medicine. And when I was in medicine, there weren't any women in it. I was the only woman sitting at the table.
Wow.
What's it feel like being the minority here?
Well, I went to Catholic school that had just turned from all girls to boys.
Oh,
boys
interesting.
and
So
girls.
you've been there, done that.
And my med school was like more women than men.
Yeah, that's what happened.
So
You were
I'm
the
used to
minority.
like, yeah, I've been the minority though. My whole
Isn't it
life.
interesting? Yeah. But you're not getting what we got. You're being accepted pretty profoundly, aren't you?
Pretty much, I think so. Yeah.
I didn't have that experience, but I made this happen. I think, I'm sorry, it sounds so egocentric, but
No, but it's true. I actually I sometimes feel it from like the patients and the families. It's like I'm there with a male fellow and like I'm talking and they're like listening to talking to the male fellow.
exactly,
not
it's
to
part of
me.
our society.
And
It's
even
part of-
once, one of them has, well, she is my attendant, so it's like, yeah, I still have
It's
it.
part of life that we dealt with, but it's changing, and I'm happy to see it's changing.
Yeah.
Because it's equality, it's not one greater than now, it's all equal. And it has to be equal. And it will equal out, this table is gonna be equal soon, not like this, it will happen in your lifetime, not mine.
I am Yolanda Jasmine Dora. I am one of the palliative care social workers here. Born and raised in the Bronx. I was born in Albert Einstein Hospital. So truly,
My heavens, you were a baby.
my mom worked for Monty for many years, so it's a generational thing. Monty has been a part of me forever. I've been a social worker for 22 years, at Monty 10 years, and here for 3 years. I gave birth to my baby business that I've always dreamt about, a travel agency called Journeys for Jasmine. Recently, so I'm celebrating a year in business in July, so that brings me joy. And I'm a daughter and a friend, not a wife yet, hopefully soon if anyone knows anybody. And just, living life.
It's terrific.
I'm Jessie Niemeyer. I'm a nurse practitioner. Worked for about 15 years as an intensive care unit nurse before I well, I shouldn't say that. I worked for 10 years before I went back to school, and now altogether I've been an ICU nurse for about 15 years and a palliative care nurse practitioner for about 3 years. And so I really define myself from that nursing perspective. I feel like that's an important part of who I am and the way that I see the world. I grew up in Washington State, far away from here, and then made my way to New York by way of Washington, D.C. for a few years before I hopped up here.
New York is a big challenge for Washington. Or is Washington a big challenge for New York? Today's world, I don't know.
My name is Khadija Shirazi. I am from Pakistan, even though I was born here, but I was raised in Pakistan. And it's been 2 years I have been living here. And it's been a month I have been observing Dr. Cardenas, and this is my last week. I'm married, I have a daughter,
Wonderful.
and I like traveling. So,
Yeah. And you've learned a lot from this department.
yes, really a lot.
And where do you go from here?
I'm planning to apply for family medicine residencies. So
Wonderful.
maybe New York, New Jersey, or down here.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You had a full range of family medicine then. What we're going to be doing today, I'm going to demonstrate so you can see it's easy. Has anybody ever done the exercise with me? Randy did it with me. I did it with a couple people, different departments, but it's fun and you get to know each other. And we'll talk afterwards. There's a reason I'm doing it. It's not just for having fun and being a painter or whatever. But when you're doing this, that your hands are steady as the subject. Each one of you will be a subject and then a painter, and then the subject becomes the painter, and the painter becomes the subject. And we will be doing the same process, and you'll each make a monoprint of each other. And but when we do this, it's very important that our elbows are steady, because in order for you to copy what you see, when it's moving like this, you can't do it. It's not steady. So I suggest that you use that she comes in front of me like this, and you sit there with your elbows on that, and I'm going to have problems because of my eyes. I just had cataract surgery.
Wow.
And so, but the brightness is doing something, and I'm going to ask this to sit over here. And so, what I'm doing is contour drawing. You know what contour drawing means? You're following, your hand is following exactly what your eye is seeing. And so I'm going to describe what I'll be seeing as I do it. And it doesn't make any difference what color. I'm going to make purple now. We're getting into the primary colors here, but it might be a beautiful purple, but it'll be something. And so right now, I'm just going to do her hair. So I'm following the line of her hair. Don't move it, just stay steady.
You have to like come with the face. Yeah.
And now I'm doing her chin. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. I'm going to do her ears right here. And then she has an earring on this side. I can't see the earring on the other, but there it is. Now I'm doing her eyebrows. And I'm following her eye, her right eye. Now I'm taking her nose from the eyebrow down.
He's a perfect nose.
Don't move. It won't be perfect. It's not perfect, we should move. That's right.
Do it perfect.
Yeah. And now I'm doing her lips. Something happened, you brought it over too much. Yeah. And now I'm doing the lines of her creases here. All right, now you see this, right? And it moved, so it's not quite right. Hold on, I have to spray.
Oh, I see.
I don't know why that got all colored in.
There must be a
So
little
I
paint
have-
on this
I'm
one.
just trying to make sure there's enough paint on this so that it'll be printed. Gee, it's drying so fast. Now what you're gonna see is a mirror image. When you look in the mirror, it's not as what you really are. Think about that. So what I am doing is the mirror image now, as she would see herself. And that's what artists, portraitists are, the mirror. And it doesn't make any difference that this is all funky. Don't worry about it, because what we can do later on is add to it and make it more interesting. But I always find these kind of monoprints are much more interesting than the real thing.
Oh, wow.
It's a wow. But it has a resemblance of her. And what we can do is we could add on it, and I could make something out of this, you know, the eyes a little bit more, maybe right there. So there you are. You got the gist of what you're doing, right? You're following each line with your eye-hand. Your eye-hand coordination is what it is. All right, now, as the painter, how did you feel painting her?
Well, she's very easy to paint.
How did you feel?
Oh,
Not her. How did you feel?
I actually enjoyed it more than when I was watching you. I thought it was like, oh boy, I don't know about this, but I really enjoyed it. It was very relaxing to kind of like focus, and then I was like noticing things about her face.
And what
Even
did
though
you
I worked
notice?
with her
What did you
ever since.
notice the most?
Oh, what did I say that I noticed the most? Your eyebrows. Yes,
Oh,
I was
yeah,
commenting on her eyebrows. I went back and did more on her eyebrows.
And what kind of conversation did you have with her when you were doing it?
Well, I was taking direction from her. No, that's not true. I was asking her. I was consulting her on the colors.
Oh yes, you were.
A little bit.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, this is
Maybe
an interesting conversation because I'm going to bring out something later. All right, and you as the subject, what did you feel?
As a subject,
Focus.
I don't know, like kind of strange, like vulnerable. Yeah. Oh, and also was like kind of, my face is not that wide. Like my this is like kind of like saying, no, this is and that's what I think she was complaining.
Now, I'm going to switch it now. As a subject, how did you feel?
I much preferred being the painter than the subject. I feel, like she was saying, like exposed a little bit. Yeah.
But you were laughing and cracking.
Well, I was because my yeah, I was.
And then as the painter to her?
So I enjoy it. I thought that I was doing a bad job at the beginning and then at the a little bit. But I like it. Mm-hmm.
Does this group get what I'm doing? As the painter, it's very similar to being a doctor. As the subject, it's very similar to being the patient. And they reacted that way in their discussion. That's what this is about. It's about empathy. You're getting into the shoes of the other person in a different way. And we can go through each one of you. Now I'm giving you the clue, so it's easier for you to say something. But it's truly what's happening. As a portraitist, you're vulnerable too. As the doctor, you're vulnerable. Because you want to know as much as you can of that patient to be able to help that patient. And you don't get it all. It's really hard. But the same thing happens with the patient. They feel more vulnerable because they're the ones that have the problems. And can we trust that doctor to be able to solve what's going on? So this was really an exercise in feeling more than it is in art. And being an artist and a doctor, I understand it very much because I always looked at my patients in a different way than most doctors. And it's probably because I was an artist all my life. And artists use their right brain so much. The right brain is the intuitive side of us. And this is a training in intuition. You need intuitive training to be a good doctor. I don't know how to do that. It's really hard. But I think this is an exercise to help you understand where you're going in life. It's about understanding. When I asked what was the most important thing, I didn't ask that of you. Let me ask you. What was the important thing when you looked at her?
Details. Like
Details are very
details.
important as a physician. Details are very important. What else did you do? What part of her feature did you like?
I like her hair and the shape of her face. I want to do it as best as I could.
It's interesting because one of the, as an artist, all right, you can sit down. I put you on. I'm going to ask somebody else to go through this, the same exercise, the two of you. Go ahead. That's it. You were together, right?
Yes.
So, as the portraitist, the one doing the work, and she is the subject, how did you feel?
You know, I guess I was just trying to do a good job. Like, trying to focus and just do what you said.
And what does that mean, doing a good job?
I mean, I guess I was just trying to just copy her face as like best as I could. You know, just like trying to keep it aligned the entire time and
Oh, this one is the one you did.
oh yeah, I did that one.
That's very accurate.
Oh yeah, I was trying.
Yeah. Here he is, the doctor, telling us, isn't it? He's the doctor then. And as the subject, how did you feel with him?
A little nervous, because I was worried that as he was doing it, I was thinking, oh, what if he draws something that I don't feel like is accurate, and then I'm gonna be a little insecure about, whatever. And when I saw him do this little sprig right here of hair, I immediately, it was hard for me to sit still because I wanted to go like this, like, do I have a little, hair sticking out there or what? So it was kind of hard to.
Don't you think that happens with patients too?
Yeah.
That you are really looking at them and they trying to get their truth, and it's hard for patients to give you their truth. It's hard for you to understand their truth. And you tried very hard. And what was the most interesting part of looking at her? Was it that little piece of hair?
Yeah, because, or I guess I was trying to pay attention to things maybe I don't pay attention to. So I guess the hair was the first thing I did, and then I started running out of time, so I just rushed through everything else. Yeah, I guess, all the little strands of hair that was like everywhere.
And now, as the painter painting him, show us the piece.
It is right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is Philip.
And it has,
What he's making.
I love it because the tie is sitting there. And I love the pink rims. That's interesting. Tell me, how did you feel as the painter?
I was worried, and I felt worried that I was going to disappoint him. That whatever I did, he would look at it and say, "Oh wow, that's what my painting looked like." So I was worried.
And as the subject, how did you feel?
I don't know, I guess I was just trying to be really still and hold the plastic very still.
And what was that for? Why were you being so still?
Because that's what we're supposed to do.
Because of the rules and regs, huh? And painting him, what was the most interesting part of painting him for you?
The tie, because he specified, I don't care about having a neck or whatever, I want, make sure you get that tie in there. So I wanted to make sure it was sort of highlighted.
Honor his wish.
Yeah, I wanted to honor his wish.
Of having the wide.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of this is what doctors do. We do wish to honor our patients. We want them to feel good about themselves. And it's about comfort. And that's what you're trying to do. And as a patient, following the rules, what does that mean for a patient?
I think I've never been a patient before, but
You wish
There's-
your patient to have compliance, and that's what you were doing. You were giving the rules of compliance.
I would like to think I'd be a good patient. I don't know if I would be or not. I guess now I
You're
think about
gonna-
it, we put a lot of rules on our patients, and we ask them to do a lot.
Exactly. And it's very hard for them. It was difficult for you, wasn't it, sitting there?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah.
All right, we'll go onward. Thank you.
This is me.
And I guess this is me.
We could tell that. All right, and you are the artist, all right, painting him.
Uh-huh.
Tell me how that's out.
At first I felt like I was describing something with my hand, like a mugshot. And trying to get like some details that would define who makes Felix Felix. And so I wanted to make sure that I included his glasses and his beard. And I started, like you had said, at the hairline, and then after that it felt a little bit overwhelming, because then I started seeing, just with the hairline, how there's so many details just with the hairline. And then if you go further on, then like looking at all these details, but if you take it one step at a time, then you know, you'll eventually get through it.
Don't you think that's how you feel as a physician?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's very comparable to that.
Yeah.
Trying to get the most important part of that patient that you can help. Sometimes it's almost impossible because they have so many problems. But what is that chief complaint? It's really hard, especially in palliative care as they're dying. What is their chief complaint? Survival. And it implies, give me comfort. Please give me comfort. Give me comfort. I don't want to be cured anymore. I just want comfort. As the subject, how did you feel?
I felt split because to me, like seeing the glass in front of me and like Linda painting on me, like I realized that I was being perceived and perceiving at the same time. Like, I don't know, like what am I supposed to do? Like to reflect who am I supposed to be at that time? Like, do I want her to paint me smiling? Will she paint me smiling? Like about that split, like who am I supposed to be at this moment, and how it's that gonna be represented?
The most interesting insights you have as a surgeon. Most surgeons don't look at things that way. It's easier to be the patient silent. I can do what I want. But I can do what I want isn't what the patient wants. I'm sorry I'm getting so deep and existential, but it's important to think about these things. And we need to think existential thoughts. That's what right brains do. And they need to go into the right brain. So you've had a right brain exercise here that helps you think in a different way. Now, as the painter, how did you feel?
I felt compromised because I know Linda a little bit, or how much you can know a person after working with them for 10 months. And I just didn't want for the picture to lose like Linda's empathy. Like knowing her for this time. Like I knew I wasn't gonna convey like the details of her hair.
I gave you the word empathy.
But like honestly, like Linda's one of the most caring people that I've stumbled upon during my training. Like she genuinely feels like the patient concerns, and I don't know, I wanted to reflect that in her eyebrows and her crooked smile. And her teeth. Like she's always smiling.
I think we're having a love fest here.
Yes.
But that's very lovely, thank you. And you as the subject?
It was definitely a little bit uncomfortable. I thought he was going to bring out some of the things like Tanya was saying about insecurities that you have about your appearance or whatnot, but it actually turned out to be a very beautiful thing.
That's lovely. Painters, what was the most interesting part of the person that you got involved with in the painting?
I don't know.
Not just the being of an empathic person, but tell me about what physical.
Like Linda's side gaze when she's like sadistic, like her eyes.
When you were painting her, what was the most interesting part of her face?
The eyebrows.
Eyebrows.
I thought you did a dimple.
Now. It keeps on chopping off. And you, as the painter?
It was actually how his glasses, one you could see the whole thing and the other one you couldn't. So trying to convey that when I was, so that was.
Thanks a lot. I think it's a good one.
This is the first one.
The second one is better, for sure, but you had, the yellow
I listened to
disappears, that's the
instructions on
problem.
the eyelashes. Yes.
All right, now, as the painter, how did you feel?
Well, I definitely felt, echoing many of the things that everybody said, I wanted to represent her. And I think because I was doing the one eye technique of just tracing things, it is hard to see what the whole picture is looking
Yeah.
at when you're just focusing on the details.
But we as physicians must do details. We must focus on details. But the reality is, what is the whole?
Yeah.
And that's always hard to get to.
Yeah.
And you as the physician, painter, whatever we want to call it.
Me as a painter. So the first one, me as a painter, I realized, well, I didn't want to. I was thinking more about myself and my being uncomfortable with the process. So I was starting out tracing her face, and she's like, "No, you have to trace me," and that brought me back to the present. Like, I can't do things the way I want to do them. I need to do things.
You were just like kind of free.
Yeah, I have to do things the way I'm being instructed to. And when I did things as instructed, I got a better outcome.
So that's part of academia, isn't it?
Say that?
Academia, it's not anything goes. There are certain rules.
Definitely.
And it does work better, doesn't it?
It does.
And so that explains some of the academia in that process. And you as the patient, or subject, I'm going to say?
I think, again, similar to what other people were saying, like I wanted to be holding still. That was kind of like my top priority. Like, I wanted to be a good subject for her to have. That was probably my biggest concern. Wanting to just do my job the right way so that she could do her thing.
That's what patients do a lot, but some patients revolt when they have too much of it.
Yeah, and it's hard to sit still. You know, it's
very
hard to
hard.
not let your eyes like wander around and try to see what's going on.
It's very difficult. And as the painter, what was the most interesting part of her?
Her eyelashes. That was the most interesting part.
And for you as the painter?
Trying to get her cheekbones, because when I first did it, I didn't have anything there, and then it didn't look at all like her face to me. But that was the thing. And then also thinking about the fact that you know that wherever you put the paint on the glass or on the acrylic, as soon as you smush it, it's gonna like. So that was hard to know. That was sort of liberating, I thought.
Well, that's the whole idea. I said that it doesn't really make any difference what the result is.
Yeah.
Sometimes the result is better than what you did.
Yeah.
Because that's where abstract art has come into being. You know, that we're not perfect in what we do in life. But sometimes we have outcomes that work so wonderfully, and that happens in medicine too. Thank you, Randy. Jessica, how was it being the painter?
Being the painter, I felt pressure because I wanted to get it just right, and I felt like I didn't have enough time to dedicate to being extremely precise. So I wanted to capture all of the detail. Then I was pretty distraught because I didn't know once I put it on the paper, it was going to turn out like Groucho Marx. I spent a lot of work on those.
It's so interesting. Jessica, it's so interesting what you said. Because in today's world, we're so involved with time as physicians. It's so important to have efficiency in little bit of time, and that's what you were dealing with. This is an explanation of it.
It's very accurate.
And there is a way, because the academia helps us get it fast, and the experience helps us get it fast. And the more people you're with, the more you understand people, you get to them right away. As the subject, how was that, Randy?
Having done it before, I was really trying to not think about the previous times, and I just thought that we haven't known each other for that long, because I guess you're probably one of the newer people on the team here, right? And I thought, I was very aware of feeling that Jessica is really looking at me. It was a very powerful feeling of like somebody that I didn't know as well as some other people that I work with, that you were really looking very closely at me, and I wanted to stay very, very still so that you could see me. And I was very aware of that feeling.
I think that's something that happens with patients at the very beginning in their first visit. They want the best. They want the doctor to be the best, and they want to be the best, and they want the best outcome. But it's so insecure on both sides because of the strangeness of each other. Now, when you were painting her, what was the most important part
I
of
wouldn't know
her?
to look at it, but her hair, I wanted to give it contour. I felt like I needed to capture
Yeah,
her
the hair is
curls.
good.
Yeah.
All right, now, Randy, as the painter, how did you feel with Jessica?
I felt very struck by your mouth, which didn't really get translated once we did the smush part, but as I was looking at you and I was doing your lips, I thought you just had the sweetest mouth. I just felt sweetness. And it's like, usually I look right at the eyes, you know, it's always about the eyes, and I don't think it's because of you wearing glasses. I don't think that was the deterrent. I just was very, very moved by a very sweet feeling that I got about your lips.
And as the subject?
I as Josie said, I did feel vulnerable, but more so because as I'm sitting there, I'm like, she's making my face way too small. It's bigger than that. My head is much bigger than that. And then as she's painting me, I'm trying to keep my face still, but my mouth is going this way and that way, and I think she did a very accurate job, especially with the eyes.
I love the eyes.
Yeah, the eyes are really cool.
Capture my true love. But it was.
I fixed one of the eyes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I cheated.
But it did feel vulnerable, yeah. And I wanted to be still and, be the best subject.
Well, that's part of what patients do in the very beginning. So we've had a description of what it's like.
And this is what she made.
The one in the end.
The first
All right, since you made Vanessa, let's talk as the portrait as the painter.
So I think, when I was observing Dr. Siegel do it, I'm like, wow, you have to be very perfect. Like when she started to make the border, or the hairline, it's like, I'm like, okay, she's going every curve, it's not like straight line. And I'm like, I have to preserve this beauty behind this acrylic. Like, I cannot miss like the hair fall, like her eyes, like it's so beauty. Like I have to preserve that image. And I think that's what we try to when we see patients who are very sick, and you see pictures, you will realize the difference. And then you're like, wow, you're like, it's astounding to see the change. And so what you have, you want to preserve. And so that's what I was trying to do, like every detail, like her eyes, her eyebrows, like those. Then her cheeks.
What you're trying to find is truth.
And then I wanted to make sure like I capture her cheeks.
Not always what you see in a photograph is true. And you're trying to capture the truth of the individual. And as the subject, how did you feel there?
I felt, I trust Nidhi. Nidhi, she was so concentrated, so I really trusted her that moment, So she definitely inspired me trust at that moment,
And same with me, when I was on the other side of the acrylic, I'm like, I have 100% confidence. I just was like this.
She was smiling.
And as the painter, how did you feel?
I really wanted to make her justice, you know, so I wanted to like try to like it appears very similar to her face. I don't know if I accomplished that, but
Of course you did.
her eyebrows, I'm like, I want to make sure like, you know, I do her, because I always like, you know, like her eyebrows, you know, so I just wanted to like,
I think it's interesting that so many of you were involved with eyebrows.
yeah. It's a thing.
I wonder why that is the case. It's interesting. Because eyes are so important in who we are.
Oh, that's true.
But maybe you're avoiding the eyes for a reason?
Yeah.
Because every one of you have not mentioned eyes except for Randy. So
Oh, no,
it's
I
a most
definitely-
interesting thing. Maybe you're avoiding something.
Yeah, I definitely feel like when she smiles, like Vanessa, and like her cheeks like pop out, that's when her eyes like get long and nice. So then I like came and I fixed it and I
see.
like tried to make extensions because I'm like, oh, I forgot that. So I came back.
For you green.
But like in real world, you always want to like, you know, try to do like to perfection. You want
Of
to try
course.
to get.
As physicians, we are compulsive idiots. We want to get there and do it and do it and do it and do it. It's important.
Did I miss something? Like, you know.
Exactly. But we're also trained that way. But I'm most interested in why nobody has talked about eyes.
You see, like the eyebrows take more space than eyes.
The most interesting thing in this group. Now I'll give you a comment about it because I have a feeling, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
How did you feel?
Okay, so I was really concerned about the colors which should I choose, because I really wanted to picture her in a way so that she feels great. I really wanted to capture.
I'm having
her-
trouble because I'm a little bit hard of
Oh,
hearing.
okay. I really wanted to capture her smile, because she was smiling one moment and the other moment she was like this.
It's very in and out, right?
The other thing I want to capture her were ears, because one was showing perfectly and the other one was hiding behind the ears.
Right,
So
right.
I was concerned about this
And why were you concerned about that detail?
because I really wanted her to feel like I did the job what I was supposed to do, so that's why.
And don't you think that happens with doctors? That you have this sense of maybe they might not trust me in what I'm doing or what have you. As a subject?
I felt really uncomfortable. But I felt like she was very gentle in her gaze of me. It didn't feel like I expected it to feel more intrusive, but she wasn't. So that was a surprise to me, that it didn't feel as intrusive as I expected to be painted.
You were very kind in what you were doing. That was wonderful.
The eye, like the shape of the way your eyes goes up is beautiful. It really matches.
It
It's
really
so
matches.
nice.
It's beautifully done. And you know, we don't worry about the details of it. It's the way it's done is what we're dealing with. It's beautiful. And as the painter, how did you feel?
I got kind of stuck in the eyes because I was looking at her, and that was like I kept trying to make them right, and I couldn't. I knew that once we smushed it, it wasn't going to be right anyway. But I spent sort of an inordinate amount of time trying to get her eyes right, and then sort of scrambling to do the rest. And then I felt like I couldn't get the movement of her scarf right. Like it has these folds, and I was trying to, and then I just said, "Oh well." I spent a lot of time looking and then trying to make it what it was in my head, and then I realized that that wasn't going to happen, so I tried to make it just colorful.
I understand. And that
Thanks.
happens often with physicians, that they try to make the patient feel good. But they're confused. The confusion there. But who are they? Am I really doing this? Am I really helping them? Am I? Is that me? A little bit. Doctors do talk about themselves a lot. You know, it's about me in this situation. It's about her as the patient. So, well, maybe I'm giving a little bit too much here, but whatever. Did I lose something? Yes, what was the part of her that made you most interested in what you were painting?
I really wanted to do her ears really good and her smile.
The smile.
Yeah.
So you're trying to, that's how she felt. She felt that comfort from you. And you?
Well,
Mhm.
for me, one of the first things she did before she put the screen, the plexiglass up, was take her glasses off. So I really saw her eyes. So I felt like that was kind of a gift, because it's like taking a barrier away. So that's why I was, I think, so focused. I was like, oh wow, she's got beautiful eyes. So I kept trying to do it, and that was.
That's wonderful gesture, to be kind, to reveal yourself. Quite beautiful. Because part of how you care is really eye contact. It's truly eye contact, because you're trying to get to the truth of the person so much. And trying to give them who they are with dignity. Eye contact is the most important thing you can do as physicians. It gives trust. It's what you did. Automatically, you took off your glasses. Trust. Here I am. Patients want to be trusted. They want you to trust them, and you want them to trust you. And what does trust mean? It means love. That's what it's all about. It's love. I'm going to end it with that. It's love. It's what we do. It's what our job is, to give love to our patients. We receive it too.